Hi guys, this is episode 1 of the Backrooms reading ASMR channel. I'm really excited to get started. We're just gonna start off with level 0 of the Wikidot. We're mainly gonna be doing the Wikidot. We might do some fandom levels as well, but level 0 threshold. By the way, before I start, thank you to the artist, Divine Atlas, Dr. Akimoto, and Robert Gorman. Thank you guys for writing this. I wanted to credit you before I started reading. So, level 0, the threshold. You awaken to the grating sound of buzzing fluorescent lights and the rancid stench of soggy carpet. A barren, sprawling maze stretches before you, insidiously yellow, frustratingly random. You blink, the halls have changed their positions, still clinging to their vacant stillness. Tread carefully, wanderer. This place is as much a grave as it is a threshold. Survival difficulty, Class 1. Safe, secure, unconfirmed entities. Often nicknamed the Yellow Hell, Level 0 presents itself as a labyrinth resembling the backrooms commonly found in offices or retail outlets. It has earned its moniker from the sickly color of the wallpaper and mildew-ridden carpets that decorate the level. Description: those unlucky enough to slip through the soft creases of reality might find themselves lost in the aberrant passages of Level 0. This is the first level of the backrooms, and often the last for those who find their way in. Many are caught unprepared as they stumble through mile after mile of randomly segmented rooms, hallways, and stairs, each as grueling as the last. This becomes a torturous endeavor, considering the mind-numbing monotony of the journey. Infinity is incomprehensible to the human mind, and yet it encapsulates every aspect of Level 0. From the variations in its architecture to its sprawling size, it feeds into this scattering emptiness, infecting the mind with malignant delirium, which slowly consumes one to their very core. The dark echoes of liminality grasp onto one's heart, feeding the madness. Those who enter become wanderers, trapped in a sea of isolation and paranoia, their lives often cut short by dehydration or starvation. Aberrations. Level 0 is labyrinthine in nature. Traversal can be a challenge endeavor due to the massive expansiveness of the level and the fact that the maze will change and shift as one progresses. The longer one spends amongst its haphazardly arranged halls, the more likely one is to encounter anomalies in the architecture. There is no surefire way to escape these haunting corridors. Perseverance is one's best chance to make it out alive. Structural. Despite the all-encompassing mundanity of Level 0, there exists a myriad of variations in its architecture. While this is not an exhaustive list, there are the most common structural abnormalities. Arches. The first notable differentiation in pale walls with archway holes decorating them. While not particularly notable beyond aesthetics, they generally show up in dead ends or adorn transition rooms. Carpet depth is notably extensive in these sections, making traversal potentially more challenging depending on exhaustion and how much fluid is trapped in the carpet. Some archways can be just wide enough for a small person to rest on, if only briefly enough to grant a reprieve from the wet floors. Archway rooms are the most stable. They tend not to shift or change behind you, which can help wanderers orient themselves. It felt like I'd walked for days. Maybe I had, it's hard to say. There's so much damn sameness after a while. It all just blends together into one big yellow blur. All I know is my feet ached more than I thought possible, and those arches were the first and only respite I had before I eventually tumbled into Level 1. My feet were swollen, I was dehydrated, and I had a sinus infection that wouldn't quit for weeks, but I survived, for whatever it's worth. Pillars. Occasionally one will come across massive pillar rooms. They can sometimes stretch for miles and will always appear in a lattice or grid pattern. While generally easy to explore, they can be extremely tedious due to their size. Carpets tend to be shallower in these sections, potentially making them inviting for sleep as there's less moisture on the floor. Many have reported that while exploring pillar rooms, the paths behind them will shift often, leading to asymmetrically placed pillars and potentially confusing pathways. It's recommended that wanderers select a heading and commit to following it. It was my third time at 0, probably my longest too. I was as prepared as you can be, all things considered, but it's hard to prep for a place like that. On day 2, I wandered into a pillar room, what looked like endless rows of perfectly spaced columns. Took me 14 days to find my way out. You can remember the tricks they teach us for them. Sleep facing the direction you're traveling. Use your left hand as a guide, but none of that can prepare you for a room that fucking big. Thank God for almond water. It's hard to imagine trying to survive there without it. Holes. As one explores, they may come across pits that lead deep into the floor. They tend to be pitch black, and light generally cannot penetrate more than a few feet into the darkness. Like the pillars, they appear in close groups and form in a grid pattern, which usually makes them simple to bypass. Some hole clusters can be large or clumped densely, making falling in an enormous risk. It's unknown what happens to wanderers after falling in. However, none have reported doing so and surviving. If extremely fatigued or dehydrated, one should avoid pit sections entirely, as they can become even more dangerous. I don't think the holes lead anywhere. Folks try to find meaning in stuff. They hear voices, feel a pull, see a blue light, and all kinds of stories. But that's just our minds trying to find meaning in the meaningless, forcing logic into something illogical. You learn quickly that things here in the backrooms don't always make sense. There's rarely logic or meaning. It exists beyond those concepts. Blackout zones. The blackout zones are entire sections of level 0 devoid of lighting. These sections are extremely hard to traverse, as they constantly shift behind the low visibility. Once inside, it can be extremely difficult to escape, as one can easily get lost in the darkness. Survivors of the blackout zones have detailed rough textures on the walls and an intense silence with the absence of buzzing lights. Floors here may be recessed, often filling with ankle-deep fluid. If entered, sprint towards the very first glimmer of light, or attempt to follow any buzzing sounds until an exit is located. As grating as they are, those damn lights, you almost miss them when they're gone. You can try to follow the buzzing, but the problem is the sound doesn't stay in one place. Sometimes it feels like you're getting closer, then suddenly it's behind you again. Red rooms. Red rooms must be avoided entirely, as they're extremely difficult, if not impossible, to escape. They're sections of level 0 that have disconnected from the whole, completely unbreachable once fully entered. Like a closed loop. Even remaining in proximity to them can cause adverse psychological effects, such as severe claustrophobia and acute paranoia. One can gauge distance to the red rooms by either recognizing the color shift to red, or if the carpets become thick, sticky, and very coarse. Another indication is sections of wallpaper peeling to reveal a crimson color underneath. The best course of action is to avoid them entirely. One should simply turn and walk away. Admittedly, the likelihood of avoiding, yet let alone escaping, the red rooms, if you come across them, is next to nothing. By the time most realize they're in them, it's already far too late. Layout changes. The configuration of level 0 is an ever-changing pathwork of architectural absurdity, worsens by an effect colloquially known as the peripheral shift. Whenever not directly observed, the layout of the level can warp, stretch, or rearrange itself, sometimes entirely altering days of traveled hallways. This is extremely disorienting and, more importantly, disheartening to new wanderers and seasoned explorers alike. The effect is not constant, and there are areas where it's less likely to occur, though this only compounds the perplexity of the yellow hell. I remember I spent what had to be 2 days mapping a stretch of halls. Thought it was real clever. I marked corners, counted the lights, and tried to keep some kind of reference. When I finally stopped to rest and looked back the way I came, the hallway was completely different. 2 days of walking, gone in a blink. You can walk for minutes, hours, maybe days, and the second you look away, the level decides those steps never happened. That's a lot to take in when you first get here, a lack of continuity. I assume it's too much for some people. It almost was for me. Noises. There is a plentiful amount of ambient noise permeating level 0 at all times. The major source of this is the buzzing lights, the volume of which can fluctuate severely and randomly. At times, the noise becomes loud enough to cause hearing damage if exposure is prolonged. During these spikes, wanderers should cover their ears and keep moving to escape the sound. Wanderers have reported other anomalous sounds, such as indistinct whispering and familiar voices calling out to them. One may also hear scratching sounds from behind the walls, as of something sharpening its nails. The sound can follow one down long hallways, but there have been no reports of anything causing it. One's advised to ignore it and move along. Whether or not these audible anomalies are a result of hallucinations or undiscovered phenomenon is unknown. Carpets. Almost the entirety of the floors within Level 0 are covered in a tight-knit, rubber-style carpeting. Though appearing yellow in photographs, likely due to the harsh lighting, the color is closer to a brownish beige when viewed in isolation. Fibers of the carpet are composed to an unknown synthetic material and feel somewhat abrasive despite the persistent moisture. Although changing texture and shading slightly throughout the vast level, the flooring is seamless, consisting of a single, continuous piece of carpet. Little is known about the origin of the fluids inundating the carpets at Level 0. Samples have demonstrated a wide variety of liquids such as salt water, brackish water, almond water, liquid pain, formalin, and even slurries containing human and non-human DNA. Notably, the carpets are not edible and the almond water is tainted, so it's advised to not bother with consuming chunks of floor, even in desperation. We see it all the time in base alpha. People will barely make it out of there alive, then come stumbling into the base, half delirious, severely dehydrated, and starving. Imagine surviving the yellow hell just to die from some unknown carpet-borne illness or a blockage caused by the fibers. Please don't eat the carpets. Isolation. The phenomenon aptly named the isolation effect has been observed by those trapped in Level 0. Even if two individuals enter Level 0 side by side, they'll never be able to find one another. All attempts to communicate, be it shouting, leaving notes, marking paths, or damaging the walls, will be met with failure. This level is truly an obstacle one must face alone. This effect is persistent throughout the level, which can be extremely psychologically taxing as wanderers press on. There's one exception, a small room in which people can see each other. The ever-changing layout of Level 0 makes encountering a room highly improbable. Entities. It is unknown whether or not entities exist in Level 0. If they do, they're likely subjected to the isolation effect, where none have been directly reported. Wanderers have claimed to see dark figures stalking them behind the corridors and experiencing scopophobia as they wander the yellow hell. Entrances and exits. Entrance. Falling out of reality is the most frequent way of entering Level 0, though there are many entrances hidden away throughout the greater whole of the backrooms. Exit. Survive long enough to find a flickering wall to throw yourself through. This will lead you to Level 1, to the fragments of humanity still inhabiting this world. Almost every wanderer remembers the moments they realize the halls never end, the buzzing never falters, and the rules of the world they came from no longer apply. Level 0 is not the worst place in the backrooms, it's just the first. Despite how it may seem, there are countless more terrible places you can, and likely will, find yourself in. If you've made it this far, you've already crossed the threshold. Welcome to the Backrooms.